Hello there. The EU is pleased with the latest deal because it allows them to trap the UK into almost permanent transition, claims one MEP. Speaking to the BBC This Week in Westminster programme, British Labour MEP for London, Seb Dance, claimed that the EU was delighted by the transition deal as it keeps us tied to the bloc's rules for decades. I'm shocked by the idea that this transition deal is just a small inconvenience, he said. This is basically the situation, that we will find ourselves in the transition period indefinitely. Just look at Norway. They've been so-called transitioning out of the process of joining what was then the EEC for some 20-odd years now, because there is nothing else to go to. And he went on to say that he thought that we would be in the transition for decades and that he didn't know of any of his EU 27 colleagues who thought any different. The Irish are incredibly pleased, obviously, with the way in which these negotiations have gone, he said, because for them, they can see the certainty continuing. They can remove the idea of the spectre of the hard border, because not only have they got the agreement and the assurances for the transition, but actually when they go forward, we have this backstop option, which would see regulatory alignment north and south, and thanks to the DUP, east and west as well. So yes, I think we'll be stuck in the transition pretty much forever. And this ties in with the next story, where the Irish PM wants the UK as close as possible to the EU. Now, just because the UK has decided to leave the EU club does not make the UK responsible for ensuring the ongoing prosperity of the bloc. But while taking political brickbats to the UK over the Irish border question, the Irish Taoiseach is saying the UK must stay as close as possible to the EU in order to protect Irish jobs. The Belfast Telegraph reports that the UK should stay as close as possible to the EU after Brexit, Irish Premier Leo Varadkar has said. The enormous trade between Britain and Ireland should be protected to ensure Irish jobs, the Premier added. Just to be clear, I am interpreting the use of the word Britain here as the same as the UK, and the word Ireland as the Republic of Ireland, not the British Isles and the island of Ireland. And I say no, we leave on Brexit Day, and if we have to suffer a transition courtesy of Mrs May, then it must end on time as already agreed. It's up to the UK to leave the EU with the best possible deal to ensure that the UK prospers. If the EU is such a wonderful trading bloc, as the Remainers keep telling us, then it does not need our help to do anything. The UK should not be sucked or fooled into somehow being responsible for the state of the EU single market and customs union, nor the economics of its member states. And the tempers of the UK public are probably also fraying after continually having veiled threats of a return to the Troubles thrust in their face and used as a Brexit bargaining chip, while being told by the very same people that the UK has to be nice and help keep jobs in the EU. Moving on. Writing in his blog, Dominic Cummings, the former campaign director for Vote Leave, has set out a robust and lengthy defence against claims that Vote Leave was somehow involved with the data company Cambridge Analytica in getting the official Leave designation, and that Vote Leave acted illegally in making donations to Believe and other campaign groups. He writes that many powerful people and journalists at the Guardian Observer got a horrible shock on the night of the 23rd of June 2016. Rather than face reality, many of them have created a fantasy and sold it hard. In doing this, they are ironically mirroring those they say they hate. And he goes on to say that these people have a fantasy that where fake news and Facebook posts conned millions of ignorant people who don't understand how the world really works, which we do. And this fantasy is much more convenient to believe than it is to face the fact that their campaign managed to lose despite having practically every force with power and money in the world on their side. But as he points out, this will blow over and won't even be worthy of being a footnote to a footnote in the history books. But the whole Cambridge Analytica thing has conflated into claims that dodgy internet operations were used on Facebook in a way that skewed the US elections as well as the EU referendum. Now, I will point out that before and after the EU referendum, Remain voters were claiming Leave supporters were old, thick and uneducated. And just after the 2014 EU elections, when UKIP got nearly 27% of the vote, so winning that election, Chuka Umunna said that UKIP voters couldn't do things like emails or browsing the internet. So how on earth could they have been influenced by an online campaign, however clever? No, these claims of online interference by the Russians or rich people through internet experts is just another way for Remainers to try to undermine the referendum result. Now, after breaking ranks on a second Brexit referendum yesterday, Owen Jones has found himself out in the shadow ministerial wasteland, but he claims he is basking in the warm glow of party approval. The former Shadow Northern Ireland Secretary said that he was sacked from his job by Jeremy Corbyn for voicing a view that he says the overwhelming majority of his fellow party members support, namely a referendum on the final Brexit deal. But with little over a year to go to official Brexit Day, it would be extremely difficult to see how such a beast could be slotted into the programme, especially as the final agreement could end up not being reached until the 59th second of the 22nd hour of the 29th of March 2019. No, the die is now cast as far as leaving the EU is concerned, with the real question being how many EU shackles is the UK establishment going to try and keep in place, secretly of course. And Owen Jones is, of course, well out of step with public opinion, as a new poll by BMG for Change Britain shows that the overwhelming majority of the UK public are in favour of the government getting on with Brexit. 57% of those asked agreed that the government should get on with implementing the result of the referendum to take Britain out of the EU, and in doing so take back control of our borders, laws, money and trade. With only 22% disagreeing. And to top it all, 31% of those who confessed to being Remainers also agreed with that statement. Indeed, said Guido Fawkes on his blog, the poll finds those who agreed with getting on with Brexit outweighed those who disagreed across all ages, classes, regions and political parties. Owen Jones should reappraise his Westminster bubble appreciation of Brexit and amend it to reflect what the people are really thinking. So, what do you think about today's news? Please leave a comment below. Thank you. Please do like and share this video, and also subscribe to my channel. And when subscribing, please do remember to press on the little bell next to the subscribe button. That way you'll get an alert every single time I put up a new video. Thank you very much for watching.